All right, looks like the waiting room has slowed down a bit here, so we'll go ahead and get started. Welcome everybody to November's Open Door Workshop for Technology. My name is Angelina Alpert. I am a research assistant at University of Missouri, Kansas City Institute for Human Development. And today's topic is going to be emergency alert devices. So for today's objectives, we're going to go over a couple of announcements. I'm going to do a quick overview of Missouri No Wrong Door. We're going to use an integrated support star for safety and security, and we're going to learn about emergency alert devices. I will say all of the Missouri Open Door workshops are recorded. They get sent out in a follow-up email afterwards, as well as posted to the Charting the Life course YouTube. So if you have to hop off for whatever reason, you still will be able to get the rest of the content. The slide deck goes out as well with that. The chat is open, so if you have any questions as we go through, feel free to drop in any questions, and we will answer those as they come up. And then if anybody has heard of the showcase before, this year is going to be our 9th annual Charting the Life course showcase. It is April 29th through May 1st in Kansas City, Missouri. This year we are going to be really trying to weave technology throughout the whole conference. So there will be a breakout room in which Missouri Assistive Technology and us talk about our Pathways to Technology Solutions curriculum. We're also going to do the spotlight rooms again. So there will be a room with all different types of technology set up throughout it, so you get a chance to walk around, see what's out there, use it. And then we'll also have technology throughout each room, so that technology that aligns with the different tracks will be in the back of the room, and you'll get to see those. So if there's a track on education, there will be devices in there that will be more specific to education. That way it's more immersive getting to see all of that technology. Registration is open for the showcase. Now until December 31st is early bird registration. After January 1st, that will be the regular price. Call for presenters is open until this Friday if you'd like to submit for a presentation. And call for sponsors is also open. There are some more options this year than usual. Typically we just have sponsors, but we're doing more of an exhibit this year. So if you would like to be an exhibitor, there's options for that as well. And I will go ahead and put the link for all of that in the chat once I pass things over to Scout. So a little bit about No Wrong Door. For those of you familiar with No Wrong Door, our No Wrong Door governance grant has ended, but we are still continuing to do the work to have a real No Wrong Door framework in the state of Missouri. We have kind of passed most of that over to the Department of Health and Senior Services. They're taking the real lead on that, which we are really excited for. It gives us more of an opportunity to have aging and disability both be a real focus. That way it's not one population dominating the other. But Missouri No Wrong Door aims to transform the way people access services in the community. So it supports individuals and caregivers to make decisions on complete and accurate information about their options for anyone seeking long-term services and support, regardless of their age, income, or disability. So this has been a lot of behind the scenes meetings, making sure that there's collaborative work going on, so that the systems and services are a bit easier to navigate. And Missouri Assistive Technology has been one of our partners on this. And out of that came the Missouri Open Door series. So they are 1 hour virtual workshops for practical information and resources. And they go over the different services and supports that are part of the STAR, which I will go over in a little bit more detail in just a second. But today we're talking about technology. And then we also have a Missouri Open Door series on benefits, which are eligibility specific. So this is integrating services and support systems. So our goal with using the integrated support STAR is that at times when somebody uses solely government and formal paid services and supports, it can at times seclude them from the family and community that they want to be a part of. So we want to make sure that we are integrating those services and supports throughout an individual's life. That way they are able to participate in the community that they want to be a part of. So quickly, I'm going to go over some Charting the Life course resources. So if you're unfamiliar with Charting the Life course, it is a framework and set of tools to help you think about your vision for a good life, set high expectations, and integrate multiple types of supports. It helps you to organize your ideas, visions, and goals, as well as problem solve, navigate, and advocate for supports. So this is the integrated support STAR. If you are familiar with Charting the Life course, you'll see that the tool got a little bit of an update. But the goal with the STAR is that you'll put your topic or situation that you're wanting to think about in the center. So today we're going to be talking about safety and security with emergency alert devices. So that's the topic that I used for this STAR. So the first area is personal strengths and assets. So that's going to be things that a person is good at, things that they have, things that people admire about them. So for this one, it's being aware of your surroundings, knowing when to call 911, having an emergency or disaster plan, having reciprocal knowledge with first responders, and having your home modified for safety. Relationships is going to be anybody from family, siblings, acquaintances, neighbors that would be able to offer support. Eligibility specific are supports that require some form of eligibility, whether it is where you live, your income, a specific disability diagnosis. So for this one, remote support services would be an option for supports. Community-based are things in the community that anybody has access to. Things like your libraries, stores, membership organizations. So for this one, that would be things like your local police department, or if you have a neighborhood watch. And then technology includes everyday technology like your phone and your TV, as well as assistive technology or environmental technology. And those could be things like personal safety devices and remote monitoring. And then with that, I will go ahead and pass it over to Scout, and he'll tell us more about emergency alert devices.
All right, thanks, Angelina. Yeah, so today we are going to cover some variety of emergency alert devices. I have not gone too deep of a dive into some of these things, but may include you all at the end. So let's gonna kind of go through and start this. I wanted to just, for those of you who may be new, this is just an image of our website with our address at the bottom, at.mo.gov. And so if you ever have questions about assistive technology, you can come to our website, you can reach out to us. We do have a tab for resources, which is chock full of great information should you need that. And then the next slide just is a breakout of some of our, on our service tab, If you'd like to borrow equipment from us, or, you know, get a local demonstration, find your demonstration site, or all the various other things that we have going on here. All right, so we can move through. So let's talk about emergency alerting devices. So there's a couple of different types, and the first type I'm going to mention is the public warning system. So these are ways that basically authorities get information to us. So one of the categories of these is the wireless emergency alerts. We've probably all been in a public place when everybody's phone starts going off with an Amber Alert. So that would be a wireless emergency alert that if you have those connected devices, you get. The NOAA weather radio. So in the past, these were, you know, devices that you had to have. You can still get a weather radio. But in the past, that's all we had. Now we can get an app for NOAA weather radio alerts. If you're looking for that, it has a blue lightning bolt signal in the App Store. But there's also the emergency alert system and the integrated public alert and warning systems. And these are the national ways that they coordinate and drop that down to for national alerts, for local alerts, those kinds of things. So those are just our public warning systems. But the other, the other side of emergency alerts are the medical alert systems. And so these are generally devices that that help when an individual has a local incident or emergency, such as a fall. So with these, you often press a button and it will reach out to the entity that is, you know, designated, whether that's a monitoring center, family, or friends, or 911. And then, you know, the correct response hopefully will happen. They have different features, which we are going to talk about, but they can be wearable or mounted. They can have two-way communication or an automated message or text. So there's actually a lot of different features that we'll talk more about, but this is basically the medical alert system. And then on top of that, in the next slide, the other alerting devices. And these, you know, may or may not constitute emergency, although they can be very significant. So this is a way of sending a signal to a receiver, often with a visual or an auditory alert. And they can work in with different systems. So a baby cry signaler is one of these alerting devices where the sensitivity can often be adjusted. A carbon monoxide detector, and you know, with these, they can be again, they can be like standalone devices. They can be smart devices, and so those alerts might just be auditory or visual, or we might get them on smart watches or phones, or you know, our Alexa device. Doorbell signalers, which may not seem to be kind of in that category of emergency, but especially when, you know, we've all just gone through the political season and we don't need another person knocking at our door telling us who they think we should vote for. But when it comes to things like Meals on Wheels, if you miss that person at your door, then you could be missing meals. And so, you know, there are times when that doorbell signaler is very, very important. Smoke alarm, we can all know that that's a pretty significant alert. So, you know, smoke alarms are, in general, they are auditory alerts. But you can get them with built-in strobe lights. I mean, if you think about folks who are deaf and those auditory signals, you know, you need a way to have that signal come to you differently. So the strobe light that, you know, makes it into the bedroom, or vibrating alarm, are some ways that different things can alert if there's hearing loss. Telephone signalers, and even wake-up alarms, which we usually call alarm clocks, but when we're talking about alarms and alerts, we have to call them a wake-up alarm. And again, this is something that for many folks is just an auditory alarm, but there's different ways that these can alert, including strobes and vibrating options. We're going to go ahead. I think the next slide is just one of the companies that provides, or that one of the things they provide, Midland Radio, are the NOAA weather radios. And they collaborated with us here at Missouri Assistive Technology for a way to give people the option, if they do have hearing loss, to still get these alerts through their weather radios. And so they designed and built a pillow shaker, as well as a strobe light, which you can buy those individually or you can buy them as a bundle. And just if you are not familiar with these kinds of switches, the bundle, which currently sells for $65, if you went and found a pillow shaker, a pillow vibrating switch on the market, it would cost that much just for one of these. And they have bundled them at a very reasonable price, which is great. And so we kind of thank Stacy Brady for working so closely with Midland and making that happen for anyone. Anyone can buy these and get that good price. All right. So I want to take a second and talk about falls. So over a third of falls in the aging community result in injury that requires medical treatment. So those injuries can be broken bones, they can be head injuries, they can be other things. I'm going to take a quick aside. Somebody's asking for the link to that bundle, and that should be on our website through if you go into our borrow a device and go into hearing, there is a link to Midland in the weather radio, but we can also put it in the chat. Okay. Anyway, so falls can cause injuries. What the CDC also says is folks who fall, whether they're injured or not, can become afraid of falling. And this fear may cause a person to change their activities and doing less than, decreases strength, which can then increase your chance of falling. The other thing that falling does is it creates just this fear, and what that fear does is actually increase your chance of falling. So when we're talking about these emergency alerting devices, we do not change anyone's trip hazards. We don't change a lot of we can't prevent the fall, but what the device can actually help with is lessening that fear. If someone knows that there is a route for help, they may be less fearful, and that may actually help them stay upright. Okay, so let's go to the next slide. So we're going to now talk about some of these alerting devices, kind of in a couple of categories. So a medical alert system, they're frequently referred to as a personal emergency response system, and you might see the acronym PERS. So they come in an at-home, many of them come with an at-home version or an on-the-go version that are designed to contact help, often by pushing the button. So if we talk about monitored systems, monitored systems, I'm going to say the user pays a monthly fee. There are some exceptions we'll talk about, but there's a monthly fee. You can have an add-on with most of them of fall detection, and often these devices include GPS location services. Which, you know, can be a benefit. And the picture is just showing that there can be a variety of devices that can come with a system. So the next slide. So I did put in the National Council on Aging advisors, kind of some top picks for these monitored alerting options. And when we send out the slides, you'll have links to all of these. But you can see I've just kind of put why these made their top list, you know, and it might be something like, you know, one is easier to use, one has a wide variety of devices, one has a long battery life, one has the best fall detection, one has no wearable. So really with these systems, we don't say this one is the best, but I mean, they do. They actually pick Medical Guardian as their best overall pick, but because of all these different features, it's really important for individuals or families to kind of go through and figure out what is going to be the best fit for the individual they're helping. You know, one of the things, you know, I think about is it doesn't work if you don't put it on, if it's a wearable. And so there is one company that, you know, you don't have to have a wearable, you know, but you have to look and see, is the house set up in the way that you can use that system? All these different things to take into consideration. So, you know, in that regard, I just want to reiterate that there is no one best system for everyone. All right, the next slide has just some information on how much these things can cost. So if you'll notice at along the top, it says starting monthly fee. So these fees can really range depending on what add-ons you put on. So, you know, there's a low on here of $20 a month. And generally the fall detection, if you're adding that on, is another $10 or $11 a month cost. And there is a, on this sheet, the cheapest starting price is $40. I mean, the most expensive starting price is $40 a month. And you can see those differences for at home and on the go. So you do have to choose if you would like, which device you would like, and then everybody has an equipment starting fee, and these all include the GPS. So this is not a end all be all, but it is just a kind of a snapshot of costs for general costs for these devices. All right, we can go on. I do want to kind of mention these two devices. One is GetSafe and one is Hands-Free Health. And I think I have them backwards. GetSafe is actually the white and red with red buttons. And this is the one that does not require wearables. So this one you would, it has that system, it has the base system, but it also has the units with a pull cord. So you might put this on the bathroom, near the bathroom floor. You might put this at the bottom of the stairs. You might put this somewhere that somebody might be likely to have a fall. And then in the event of a fall, they push that button or pull that cord, and it would then send the signal, which is just a little different. So again, if you've got someone who either forgets or is non-compliant with putting something on, having that wearable, this could be an interesting option. Hands-Free Health is really a virtual assistant. So it kind of does a little bit more than just the fall detection. So, you know, it does all those things that the the kind of the AI virtual assistants can do, appointment reminders, medication reminders. It can send notifications, can even answer some questions, track some things. You can also, what did it say? It has music built in. You can add audiobooks. You would have to pay for that. You can get some news. So it has that feel of like new technology, and it does more. It doesn't feel like just a fall alert. So I also think that's a way to get people to wear this watch, is that it's not just for the fall alerts. Okay, and for some that could be helpful. Now we're going to talk about emergency alertings devices that don't have monthly fees. I'm using this Guardian Alert 911 as my generic image, mostly because this is something that I used. I used a lot when I was providing these. I will say they were half the cost back then. But this is a device that you buy one time, and so then there's no ongoing monthly fee. There are some very different specs with these, and I put out the specs because the bottom line of the specification says this is the way this connects is with a standard landline. So that is something that folks need, which for many people is a monthly expense. So if you don't already have landline, or if you don't still have landline service and you want something without a monthly fee, your monthly fee basically is your landline phone service. All right, so it's a kind of a catch-22 there. We can go on to the next slide. All right, so some things to know if you get a device without a monthly fee is that the biggest thing is it requires push button activation. Some of the monthly fees do too, but if they have fall detection, you don't actually have to push the button. With no monthly fee, there is no monitoring. So you have to be able to push a button, which means somebody falls and gets knocked out. Nobody's going to know. So just something to kind of consider. Some have two-way communication, which I like. Others have pre-programmed messages. Some of them have options, so you can set a list of numbers. Others go directly to 911. I always discourage people when there's that list of numbers from putting 911 in that list, because if it goes through, if that list is not stopped by someone, even if they get that message, if it goes through and contacts 911, they're going to get there first. That door is going to be broken down, or they're going to come in. So I always encourage people to have it either have the either or just call family. But these devices do generally have very long battery life because they don't do a whole lot. They do require the landline phone service, like I said, or some of them require a connected smart device. There is no GPS location, no fall detection, unless it is something that is going to pair with something you already have, like a cell phone. So, I have these, like, this is what they do, but there are exceptions now because some of them can be paired with a smartphone. All right, so let's move on and look at some of these. So again, the National Council on Aging Advisor has their list of devices without a monthly fee that they recommend. So the first one I put in is the picture in the middle, the phone with the handset, which just is basically that the wearable is going through your phone and contacting emergency services. I'm not sure how to say it, the Plegium Smart Emergency button. that is pictured at the top does go through your smartphone. So you don't pay a monthly fee for the device. You obviously have a phone bill. The Guardian Alert 911 Plus is a variation of the image that was on the first non-monitored slide. The 911 Plus is actually what they call an on-the-go device, so it would require a cell phone. And the Yolink FlexFob Smart Fob actually does multiple functions, and you can use that to call emergency services, but you can also use it to do a lot of other things, turn on lights, make other actions like that happen. So kind of an interesting idea and way to go about this as well. All right, we can. Okay, so my note for using any kind of emergency alerting device. If that device requires something for activation, pushing a button, pulling a cord, or voice activation, whatever it is, know what is required and what you get from that action. So the inability to activate should also be considered. If you do have to push that button, what happens if somebody falls and knocks themselves out, or they fall in an area where they cannot reach a device that needs a button pushed? So again, fall detection is generally an additional fee that, again, is a family choice whether to do that. Often only alerts with a hard fall, which I'll try to mention later. So if somebody sinks to the ground, they may not be injured, but if they do need emergency attention, maybe it's a heart condition or a breathing condition, so they're not falling hard, but they might be in an emergency situation. That is not considered a fall for fall detection. A fall is generally a hard fall. All right. So some folks, and I will say more than I'm comfortable with, have said to me, "Oh, I don't need an emergency alerting device. I have a cell phone." And so my image here is of somebody walking away from their cell phone. So my experience is that folks who think that they always have their cell phone with them often do not have their cell phone with them. Even if somebody has their cell phone with them, if it is not attached to their body in some way, or in a secure pocket, the cell phone could go flying when they fall, especially if it's in your hand when you fall. Your hands are there to block your fall, not cradle your cell phone. I mean, that is the general way we would go about things. We want to break our fall. The phone can go flying. So I do not consider a cell phone as an emergency alerting device without a good pocket or an attachment method. Okay, we can move on. But there's lots of other things. So I apologize. I didn't do a lot of pictures on this one, but if we think about smartwatches, I actually may have another slide, but I'm going to talk about smartwatches. Actually, I think they are my next slide. Yeah, so thank you. The Apple Watch as a fall detection device actually can be really beneficial for folks because it's now standard when you have a Series 4 or higher. A hard fall does trigger an alert. So fun fact is that I have a newer Apple Watch for the fall detection. I am not one that is generally prone to falls, but because I ride a bike and my wife is afraid I will get hit by a car and die in a ditch, she wanted me to have the fall detection so that it would alert her if I fall. And and really it gives her peace of mind. And it is a device that I was already using, so I don't feel like I've got a fall alert on my wrist, and I think that can be significant. Um, People will use smartwatches for all kinds of primary purposes, and having that fall detection kind of built in uh, does not make people necessarily feel like I have to have this. As we age, none of us want to think, oh, I'm getting older and frailer. Um, so having devices that do multiple function can be really smart. Um, with the Apple Watch, the SOS feature, you can go to 911 or have an emergency contact. And I think if your emergency contact doesn't answer, I think it goes into 911. But it also does a ton of health monitoring. Like I can get an echocardiogram on my watch. It's nuts. Um, so and encouraging that fitness, encouraging people to stand up, encouraging people to move a little bit more is also can be an overall health benefit. So some of the reasons I like this as a fall detection device. If we can go back, Angelina. So the other kind of connected or higher tech devices that are out there, there's cameras with apps for remote monitoring, which can be creepy, but also can be a way to really give family a sense of security, that, somebody is just not paying attention to their cell phone. They're just, moving around their home. Um, there are remote supports with monitoring. Like Angelina said in the beginning, the remote supports are a whole system of thing that are often funded through a waiver. But they can do motion detection, they can do door alerts, they can do there's lots and lots of ways that the remote support kind of community can help an individual, and they can feel independent and still have that level of safety. Lots of smart home devices that can be voice activated, that can call out, that you can drop in with a Amazon show, and check on people. Or from the floor, I could say, call Michelle, and have that device connect to someone else. Um, pressure mat alarms are also a great way to kind of track movement, make sure things are going the way they're supposed to go. You can see if somebody is getting up multiple times in a night, there may be a cause for concern. Especially if somebody's usually getting up once a night to use the restroom and they're getting up 5 times a night, that pressure mat can kind of alert that there's something going on. It can also be a way, if someone doesn't tell somebody if they need help on getting up and they don't talk to, they don't call out for help, that it can be alerting somebody to go in and help them, either get them back into bed or get them to a restroom. All right, there's different tracking devices again for GPS and smartphones and tablets, which we've talked about throughout, that can be great for emergency alerting, can be problematic, depending on how you attach them. All right, let's go on to, okay, let's go on, we can skip that. Remote supports. Okay, so again, remote supports are that technology-based service that provides assistance to folks who don't want full-time staff. So the two-way audio devices are the kind of the mainstay of these, where you can always check in with a monitoring station. So there's always a person there to talk to. The video doorbells, all different kinds of sensors, and plus the variety of devices, the technology that can be included with these packages. So it really is a whole package. And again, these are generally waiver funded. And there's lots of information. I think I put a link to this, to the remote support providers in Missouri in the handout that will be coming with the uh, with the link to the video. So I think we can go on. And then, there's also lower tech devices that we can talk about, like just door alerts or chimes. So these can be connected with a smart home device or a monitoring device, or they can just be separate. They can just be something that chimes when a door or a window is open. And you can have keypad alarms, motion sensor lights, or alerts, and then home phones or very simplified phones. So I have a couple of phones on here that for anyone, no matter what their cognitive ability, they could still use a phone. So the top phone is just a landline phone that has pictures. So somebody can dial by picture, which is a nice option. It has the red light is supposed to be on at the bottom, so it lights up when it rings, so somebody can kind of be alerted in multiple ways that it's ringing, and it's just a really easy way to make a phone call. And the picture below is a GrandPad, and that's a really simplified smartphone. And actually limited in function, so folks can't get lost. But you can see on the screen, it says you can dial a number, or it starts going through your contacts. And then, so if I wanted to call my first contact, if I click on that, it gives me two options, one for a voice call, one for a video call. And I just make my choice and call that number. So it's just really easy navigation to keep people nice and safe. All right. And then I think there's, so of course, one of the things we want to do is avoid emergencies. And there are lots of kind of things to kind of make sure that are in place to avoid emergencies, including med planners, a ton of varieties, appointment reminders, whether that's a high-tech, a smart home device or just a calendar that's written on. We want to have good lighting, really make sure people can see what they're doing when they're doing it. We want to have a decluttered home so nobody's tripping. Keeping regular exercise to keep everything moving and as healthy as possible. And not to be left out is social interaction, because depression is actually, I think, one of the top 3 causes of falls, or factor in falls. So, making sure people stay connected. And so again, those phones, even though we think of them as a way to, do business, they're also a great way to just keep people social. I think, Angelina, is that the last slide? Okay,
Yes.
so I tried to leave a few minutes and I
There,
have.
oh, sorry. I was going to say there are a couple of questions that we missed
Oh,
in the chat. I don't know if
okay.
you've seen them.
I
So there was one asking about the like alert devices for if somebody is deaf and seizures. Somebody said that the strobes, I mean not the strobe, sorry. Somebody said that the shakers would probably be a better option, but then somebody else also said that strobes potentially work on a different wavelength frequency, so it might not have the same effect. We wanted to go
Interesting.
but I don't know if there was any other things you had to suggest besides just like the shaker options.
No, I think the bed shaker would be the way I would go for the safest option for that. Um, I don't know about the frequency of strobes, but that's you know, strobe lighting versus, you know, for somebody with a seizure disorder. But that's something that Stacy might know. If Stacy's the one who answered, um, I would default to her answer. Um,
We also had, do you know if an emergency alert can be sent to a smartwatch? Like a weather alert or if there's an intruder?
Um, depends on the device. So some devices will not connect to smart devices. Some absolutely will. They can go to a watch. They can yes. So there's just a variety of devices out there.
Would these landline enabled items work on a VoIP landline system?
You know, again, that was something I would have to check on. I'm sure my guess is that if Stacy is still on, she is looking at that right now. Um, and Stacy is saying there are specialized apps that would need to be probably added in. Um, but if somebody has that, I would recommend just, you know, calling our office, and if we get that, we can put it in the fact sheet when we send out the recording.
Um, Another question was, would some of these alerts have to go through the due process?
Um, I don't know what the due process is. That sounds like something specific that is not in my realm of things. So if you'd like to unmute and talk about that, I would welcome that question.
While we're waiting for them to potentially unmute, do
I
you
think I
know?
got it.
There we go.
Well, you know, like if there are certain equipment that is kind of required or needed for some of our consumers with DMH, um, some things have to actually go through our due process committee, and they just can't be implemented without it, you know, being discussed in a plan. And
Right.
so
So
there's like like if it's especially if it's going to be a long-term use, and not, you know, moved off, you know, away from it.
right, I think the if it's going through DMH, my guess is that I mean, I think a lot of these things probably are an option. Cameras are not an option for DMH. I do know that. But a fall alert device, I think the question would be more about the long ongoing funding, if there's a monthly fee. But I still think that's an option. And for this, you know, there are DMH contacts. If you've done this already, I think Shelley Brown would probably be your contact, or there's a couple of local reps, then maybe somebody's on the call. Who, if you are on the call, you're welcome to unmute and chime in. But I do think a lot of these things, when it is advancing safety and security, would probably, you know, go through as long as there's a plan. That's part of the goal.
Okay, so Stacy said that for most of the watches, there's going to be specialized apps that would need to be added for emergency alerting, and that yes, VoIP lines can be used for most home phone lines. And then, do you know of any programs in the state that provide deaf and hard of hearing smoke alarms?
Boy, I wish. I always encourage people to talk to, if the fire department is giving out smoke detectors, then, you know, go in and ask them, hey, do you have something for folks who are deaf? And if they say no, say, I would like you to make that an option. But just the more we advocate that, you know, if this is for the community, make it for the whole community. The Red Cross was doing it for a while. Again, if Stacy knows somebody who's doing it now, right, so Red Cross has a limited number. They would be my first go-to. And then, just consumer advocacy agencies who might help fund things, might help with that. But after the Red Cross, I don't know of anyone in particular who's funding those. Any other questions?
That was all that I saw in the chat, but if anybody else has any, chat's still open. You can also unmute yourself.
Yeah, so at this point, I would like to do a call out of a lot of these mods are set up kind of with the expert model system. So you guys join in, you come in to hear somebody talk about something, but the fact is that I don't have all the information. We here at Missouri Assistive Technology don't have all the information, especially in an arena such as this where there's so many variables and so many things are changing quickly. So I would encourage you, if you have an experience, if you have a device, if you have something you would like to share with this group, please, let's make this a collaborative effort, even though we've only got a few minutes left. I would love to hear your thoughts, your knowledge. So go ahead. I'm watching for someone to unmute and share with us your experience with any type of emergency alerting devices. Or put it in the chat if you don't want to unmute. I know you have experience. So now we'll do the waiting. There, oh, Stacy.
Hey, I just thought I would share real quick. We were talking about the watches. I have it set up with Nixle/Everbridge to get alerts not only to my computer, but to my phone. So I also have it restricted what kind of alerts I want. That is an app on my smartphone. But the other thing is I've also registered, I've forgotten what it is, and I'll have to get back with you guys about it. I've also registered with certain departments. So anything that happens in Central Jackson County or Independence, I get alerted through the night or the day. And it's been really helpful because I can look at my phone and be like, oh, that's over in Levacy, which is east of me. I don't need to worry about that. Or, oh, that storm is coming this way out of Clay County. So there are options out there, and it goes to my phone, it beeps, it would go to a watch because that app would be able to carry that alert. So those are some thoughts out there.
Stacy, would you mind typing the name of those apps in the chat? People weren't sure if they got it down right.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
Right. Anybody else have anything that they'd like to share? Something you have found useful, something that you tried that was terrible? Those things are kind of nice to know.
Somebody mentioned in the chat that they have experience with Project Lifesaver, which is a GPS based within the county.
All right. So is that only local? Is Project Lifesaver just a local resource? And if so, could you put what county you're in? And Stacy is getting those apps in the chat, which is nice. Anybody else have something they'd like to add? Oh, it's national. Okay, it's national, but only certain counties have it. She's in Jefferson County, which is great. So yeah, sometimes if you want that resource, you have to find out if it is available. Again, if it's something that you want in your county that's not available, reach out and say, hey, this could be really useful for folks I serve or for my family. Is there an option of getting this? Taking that kind of advocacy role to get the things that can benefit the whole community, and letting folks who make those decisions aware that we want more of those options is really great. The GPS doesn't work in St. Louis County. Yeah, kind of interesting that it is more localized. So, right, and again, back to those like different features, all the different features that the different devices come with, and they can be really specific to your needs. It looks like Brittany's moving, so that is another thing to look into. Is it available everywhere? Most of these things would be available. You might have to switch something. But yeah, just looking at those features that are that are the need. Again, if you look at that, the trajectory with the life course tools, you know, what is the goal? How do we get there? How do we avoid what we don't want? You know, and if that is avoiding a fall, if it is avoiding, you know, going to the doctor more, getting sick more, you know, like what are those things that we can do in this area to have that good life? All right, doesn't look like anybody else wants to share their thoughts with us today. So thanks for attending, everybody.
Just wrap up really quick. We are done with mods for the year. There won't be one in December for benefit or technology series, but we will be back in 2025, starting back up in January, and we'll have a schedule for those soon. And then also just wanted to toss up our contact information as everyone's leaving if anybody had additional questions. And then I also see Stacy just put in the chat to register with local emergency management services, city and county, possible neighboring communities. And other than that, we'll hang out for another minute or two unless if anybody has any other questions. But thank you, Scout, and thank you all for coming, and we will see you next year.